What's going on, Summoners? My name is Dan, and I'm here to run you through another high ELO tier list. This time, we're going to give you guys an update for patch 10.17 in regards to which champions are the best picks in high ELO solo queue. Like always, we're going to run you guys through all the balance changes from patch 10.17, and also provide 5 tier lists that cover every single role. If you aren't aware of this series, we cater these tier lists to Platinum and higher, so we'll be pulling data from higher ELO games and focusing our attention there. Anyway, if you want to get better at League of Legends this season, you guys definitely need to check out ProGuides.com because we've got guides, coaches, and even live classes tailored to help you guys improve. We also offer VOD reviews too. If you've ever played a game where you were just lost and didn't know what you could have done better, you can now have a coach review a game and let you guys know where you could improve. Finally, for our question of the day, if you could only play one champion for the rest of your time playing League, who would it be? If you're a one-trick, try choosing a champion that you don't play. Personally, I think I'd only play Blitzcrank. He's simple, but I don't think I'd ever get over the rush of excitement I get when I land a clutch hook to win games. But let me know your guys' answers in the comments below. Beginning with the top lane, let's talk about a buff that Aatrox received this patch. His ultimate's AD scaling went from 0.2 to 0.3 all the way up to 0.2 to 0.4 of his attack damage. While he's at the same power level at level 6 at levels 11 and 16, he now spikes a bit harder than before. Aatrox has been struggling in competitive play, and Riot has decided to finally pull the trigger and give him some well-needed buffs. Although we don't think Aatrox will become as broken as he was in the past, this buff is still a nice one as he'll have much more presence than before with his ultimate. We've moved up Aatrox to the A tier as we expect even little changes to make huge differences for him.
I return.
The other change we've made to the tier list is that we've moved Neeko up a tier to the A tier. Neeko is seeing more play across Summoner's Rift altogether.
Thank you.
She's seeing better win rates in both the top and mid lane, and considering that she's one of the few AP champions that can actually win lane against a lot of meta picks, she's worthy of the A tier. Our tier list for the top lane remains otherwise unchanged. We've still got Darius and Fiora as our OP picks, followed by Shen, Wukong, Jax, Garen, Maokai, Camille, and Hecarim in our S tier. While Hecarim did receive nerfs this patch, he's still in a stronger state than he was in patch 10.15. Riot basically cut the buff he received last patch in half, so we still expect Hecarim to perform quite well in high ELO. He absolutely dominated the last patch with a 53% win rate as a top laner, and even if it drops a whole percent this patch, that'll still be quite impressive. Well, that was a quick one, but we didn't have much to cover in the top lane, so let's head into the jungle where there were a lot more changes. There were multiple balance changes in the jungle, so let's start with Gragas. Gragas' armor was buffed by 3 this patch, increasing it from 35 to 38. This will help out his early clear and also give him a better chance at winning fights against other junglers. Even AP junglers use basic attacks, so this is a direct buff in any combat scenario. The fact that he'll come out of the jungle a bit healthier should also make winning these same fights a little easier than before. While this buff is nice, we'll keep Gragas in the B tier because it's not a big one by any means. He'll see an increase in his win rate, but not a huge one.
Need some grog.
Next is Evelynn, whose Q was nerfed this patch. Her Q's base damage has been reduced by 5, and thus has gone down from 30 to 50 to 25 to 45. Essentially, Riot is reverting a buff they gave her way back in patch 10.8. Since the last buff she received helped her out so much, it felt necessary to take some power away from her. Because Evelynn's Q cooldown was reduced so significantly, she's still much stronger than she was before, and we're only moving her down from the OP tier to the S tier. However, don't take this nerf lightly because Evelynn is always spamming this ability. Even losing an amount as small as 5 damage can be quite a lot considering how many times she hits enemies with it. Hecarim's in the same boat. He was buffed last patch, but proved to be a bit too strong. Thus, his movement speed on E has been reduced from 25 to 100% to 25 to 80%. Hecarim's win rate skyrocketed last patch following his buff, and this patch Riot has decided to basically cut that buff down the middle. He's still stronger than he was before patch 10.16, but has had his strength toned down this time around. We'll keep Hecarim in the S tier considering how much success he's been finding in the jungle lately. Alright, with that said, let's talk about what changes we've actually made to the tier list. While Nidalee is a great pick in a dedicated player's hands, she's been underperforming a little bit outside of elite players' hands. In Diamond 2 and higher, you can still consider her S tier, but for you guys between Platinum and Mid Diamond, she's been underperforming. Drop the ego, not trying to call anyone out here. If your goal is climbing specifically, you're best off picking other champions unless you main or one-trick Nidalee. We've moved her down to the A tier, but again, she's subjectively S tier depending on the player. We've got other AP threats such as Evelynn, Elise, and Karthus now that can provide just as much pressure, but more reliably. There's a good chance that we decide to move her back up next patch depending on how the meta shifts. The nerfs we mentioned might bring her win rate back up, but only time will tell. Lee Sin has been moved down another tier for similar reasons.
A risk I shall take.
It's really hard to find results on. However, the statistics behind this decision for Lee Sin are much more understandable because Lee Sin is underperforming quite significantly at all ranks. Outside of those few montage-worthy clips you'll catch here and there, Lee Sin feels a little too risky to play at the moment. Finally, we've moved Rammus up to the B tier.
Okay.
He's actually been doing pretty well recently, and the C tier definitely felt too low for him. We're always cleaning up our tier list, and this is a prime example of it. While Rammus falls off in elite levels of play, he's finding enough success in Platinum and Diamond to merit us moving him up. In the jungle, our S tier consists of Evelynn, Karthus, Kha'Zix, Nunu, Kayn, Graves, Rek'Sai, Elise, Wukong, Fiddlesticks, and Hecarim. Next, let's run through the mid lane. First up for the mid lane is a nerf to Qiyana. Her W's on hit damage AD ratio has been reduced from 20% to 10%, and her E's base damage from 60 to 200 to 60 to 180. Qiyana was hit pretty hard this patch, especially in longer fights. Even when bursting down enemies, losing some on-hit damage is a pretty big deal, and on top of this, Qiyana's burst damage has inevitably gone down a bit as a result of the direct nerf to E's base damage. Essentially, Qiyana's on-hit damage on her W had its scaling cut in half. Our analysts have moved Qiyana down to the B tier, but at worst, she's at the top of it.
Such insolence!
Qiyana lingers somewhere between the A and B tier this patch, so she's not weak by any means in spite of this nerf. Yone proved to be a far too powerful pick last patch and is the first new champion in a while to get nerfed rather than buffed after release. To balance him out, his Q's base damage has been decreased from 20 to 120 to 20 to 100, and his ultimate no longer lifesteals. While this nerf is a decent one, we expect Yone's win rate to continue climbing as players get more and more comfortable with him. We've placed Yone in the S tier for now.
Not enough to stop me.
For our other changes, we've moved Zoe down to the A tier and also moved Akali up to it. Akali received a minor buff to her Q and E last patch, and she's been doing much better as a result. Her performance shot up last patch significantly, showing that even small changes to Akali can lead to her popping off. Zoe, on the other hand, has found a lot of trouble as a result of the developing mid lane meta. Aggressive picks are making it much harder for her to play the game she wants to. Champions with high damage output and mobility can chase Zoe down and easily kill her if she's not careful because she doesn't have very much mobility to escape from them. For this patch, our mid lane's S tier is Talon, Diana, Vladimir, Fizz, Katarina, Karthus, Zed, Yone, and we've also kept Galio as our OP pick. Our analysts speculate that they might need to switch Galio and Yone on the list, but we definitely want more data before following through on that assumption. Alright, that's it for the mid lane, so next up is the bottom lane. I know bot laners have been pretty happy with this patch already since Caitlyn did receive a nerf. Her base movement speed was decreased from 330 to 325. This is a partial revert on the previous buff she received that increased her base AD and her movement speed. Trust us, the movement speed buff was a bigger deal, and Riot has decided to take it back. That's one of the good things about this game. If a buff ends up being too much, Riot can always take it back. With extra mobility, Caitlyn was able to much more easily weave in and out to land some meaningful poke on her opponents. She also had an easier time kiting opponents later into the game with the extra movement speed, so taking away this necessary power should tone her down quite a bit. We've moved Caitlyn down from the OP tier to the S tier as a result of this change. Next is Varus, whose attack speed scaling has been increased from 3% to 3.75% per level this patch. On-hit Varus builds will probably make a comeback. Varus has been seen recently as a poke champion, chunking enemies with fully charged Qs. However, he was hit with so many nerfs in previous patches that it was basically impossible for him to not get knocked out of the meta. They absolutely killed him, and even with this buff, we think he still belongs in the B tier.
No turning back.
Xayah also received a buff this patch. Her AD per level has been increased from 2.9 to 3.5. This is a very nice buff that amounts to about 11 AD in the late game. That's quite a lot considering it comes from base stats. Especially when paired with Rakan, this buff should help Xayah have an easier time finding success, especially in the later stages of the game where it felt like she fell off a little too hard. Again, we're going to have her stay in the B tier, but we'll keep you updated on her in our mid-patch update next week.
Just no.
Kai'Sa also received a nice little buff, but she's already an S tier pick, so we're not going to move her. Her AD per level has been increased from 1.7 to 2.0, and her attack speed on E from 40 to 60% to 40 to 80%. Overall, Kai'Sa will scale even harder than before. If she manages to survive early on and games drag on, it's inevitable that this late game monster will become even more terrifying. When maxed out, her E provides 20% more attack speed than before, which is definitely a lot in the late game. We haven't made any other changes to the tier list this time around. If you were up to date with our channel, you would have known that the Lux-Sona duo were actually OP because we hyped them up in our mid-patch update last week. Make sure to subscribe to our channel because we're dropping another one next week to give you another update on the trends for the patch. However, since they got nerfed this patch, we're going to have them stay in the S tier for now. Thus, our S tier consists of Caitlyn, Senna, Draven, Vayne, Aphelios, Kai'Sa, Ashe, and the Lux-Sona duo. That's it for the bottom lane. Let's finish this all up with supports. Needless to say, we'll wrap things up with nerfs to the Sona and Lux duo. First, Sona's Q's AP ratio has been decreased from 50% to 40%, while her E's movement speed AP ratio has been decreased from 3 to 2% per 100 AP. In the duo, Sona is typically the damage dealer who builds AP if needed. Building AP would also have a secondary effect of increasing Sona's utility, most notably the bonus movement speed on her E. Losing 1% on her E's aura for every 100 AP is a huge deal, considering that Sona could easily break the 300 AP mark by the late game. Her damage and utility taking a hit should significantly lower the effectiveness of the duo. We'll keep Sona in the A tier for now, but she would have probably been moved to the S tier if she hadn't received this nerf. Finally, Lux also received a nerf. Lux's W shield has been reduced from 50 to 130 plus 30% AP to 45 to 125 plus 35% AP. The mana cost has gone up from 60 flat to 60 to 80, and a bug fix has been rolled out to reduce the extra shield allies would receive if they were at the edge of her W. While this nerf is a big deal, Lux has been popping off as a support, even by herself. We would have moved her into the S tier as well if it weren't for these nerfs, but we've held back and only moved her up to the A tier for now. Lux has become a favorite amongst high ELO support players because of her immense utility and powerful laning. I would not underestimate her, and she might even still be S tier. Once again, we'll let you guys know in our update next week. The final change we made to our support tier list is that we've moved Fiddlesticks down to the D tier. We've given him enough time and he's been underperforming heavily as one. He's a pretty scary jungler, but a small, much less terrifying support. He's not that strong in lane as other aggressive supports can hard counter him. Both Ignite and Crowd Control effectively shut him down in the bottom lane. Our S tier for supports this patch consists of Senna, Lulu, Thresh, Leona, Blitzcrank, Janna, Bard, and Morgana. That concludes our patch 10.17 high ELO tier list. Thanks again for watching, everyone, and make sure to check out ProGuides.com as we have a bunch of resources aimed at helping you guys improve. We're always updating our content there, as well as on here on our YouTube channel, so make sure you connect with us by subscribing. And if you want to find me anywhere on social, you can at Daniel Lammerman. Until next time, though, I wish you guys all the best out on Summoner's Rift.